Karamo think of his castmates at the first meeting? Well, at JVN was one of the most handsome men he's ever seen. At Tan France had the brightest smile and warmest energy. Bobby Burke is his white twin. He's a mastermind and a hard worker. And Anthony has one of the kindest and most gentle souls ever. I added a couple of words.
I love the humility in like a mastermind and a hard worker, your white twin. Very on brand. Very.
Love that bastard. He talks about this whole thirst thing. If we actually run a little scan on how many shirtless photos we've all had, I'm pretty sure I'm in third place after Jonathan and Karamo, who wears a cardigan without anything underneath. Unless you're doing a piece for Gay Times and they give you a beautiful Missoni knit and the photographer asks you to. I realized I was going to get blasted for that. Oh, I caught myself. I'm getting good.
Candle. Beyonce for Anthony, Brit for Bob, and I would get Rue for my Karamo. What do I get for Tammy? Could be a Cardi, could be a Beyonce. Oh, it's Drake. Nailed it.
Never have I ever sent a dirty text.
You should drink the entire glass.
Most likely to take food off your plate without asking. We just had this discussion
It's
yesterday.
literally not me, and how dare you, and you know it.
He's never done that.
Oh my god, it's him! He eats your fucking cheese!
No, Anthony does.
He's the one that eats your cheese!
No, you always eat all my queso. Oh my god! Every time we eat, I'm sorry, that is the boundary I feel Tan would cross. Yes, yeah. He does this. Oh, love, what is that? And then he eats it. He always eats it.
That was actually the best British accent Karama's ever even thought about doing.
Because he was very like impassioned.
Happy birthday to one of my favorite people out there. In just a year, you've went from a total stranger to family. Love you to the moon and back. And then we were puking rainbows.
Us in our natural form with unicorns.
This one's for you, Anthony. Attention, Anthony. Corgi sighting on the SLC mountain trail. I repeat, Corgi sighting. Yo, flat ass over here paying with me. I'm sorry.
I will choose to ignore the flat ass.
Hard on yours. You worked really hard on it.
I picked many people on the street trying to get a corny picture for you.
And it's like really getting big though. His butt is really getting big.
Who's most likely to offend someone by complimenting them?
Oh, that's easy. Oh, yeah. Yep.
That's easy.
Yep.
I refuse to put myself,
We
so I'm
all-
going to say Bobby.
Thank you. So even Tan agrees with Tan. Most likely to be late.
Can we just say Jonathan?
Yeah, Jonathan. Most likely to touch your hair. Jonathan. Most likely to FaceTime you at the worst time.
Jonathan.
Okay, great. Your card's done.
Most likely to give unsolicited advice.
Let me make myself perfectly clear.
Yeah, I know. But love it. You know.
I know you may not agree with what I'm about to say, and that's usually like, so why are you going to say it?
What's the best lesson you've learned about men, masculinity, since you started Queer Eye?
That it's toxic.
Yeah?
Yeah. Toxic behavior is something that has been ingrained in us since we were children. I remember this story vividly of when I was playing football. It was the first time I ever injured my leg. I mean, I was in pain. And my coach was literally screaming at me, Brown, shake it off, walk it off, don't cry, get up. And I was like, limping, wanting to weep, and I couldn't. In that same moment, no joke, this girl was running around the track doing hurdles, and she tripped over one of the hurdles, and literally everyone ran around her. The same coach that just told me to suck it up and was like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Everyone was, and I was thinking, I'm equally as hurt, but yet you told me that I can't feel. And I realized that dealing with the men that we work with on Queer Eye, every single one of them have been told that if you feel, you're not a man. If you want to have self-care, you're not a man. If you don't address women in a certain way, you're not a man. If you're not about finances and sex, you're not a man. And I'm like, this skewed definition of masculinity has to die. Let's literally shoot it in the head and bury it, and allow men to be reborn as amazing creatures that support and love each other and love women and check in with themselves.
I thought you'd never ask. For Jonathan, it would start out with a margarita, heavy on the tequila. I'm trying to think of the largest bowl I could possibly imagine, and it would be a vat of queso. It's got to be soupy, with a massive bag of. I'm making it sound like he would eat all of this and like he's a pig, but he really isn't, because I indulge with this with him all the time. Tortilla chips, and just dip tortilla chips into the queso so that the little bits get into his perfect little beard, and then I would wipe it off for him, and then he would continue and he would have more pieces of it. Dessert from not one but two restaurants, and one of them would probably be something not unlike a pizza crust that's slathered in peanut butter with a bit of a chocolate sauce, maybe something like a Nutella, but minus the hazelnut so that it's not fancy, so it's basically Hershey's syrup, which is not even real chocolate, but he loves that anyway. And then the second one would probably be ordered from somewhere else, like a Krispy Kreme. And you can have 4 of them until you realize that you've had 4 and you feel like death. Great British Baking Show, on the TV, holding our bellies, going like, oh.
Never have I ever ghosted someone. Like, no one that I liked.
I've never ghosted anyone, but it's only because I need everyone to love me, and I would be too afraid that they would not like me. So it all boils down to my narcissism.
Next! My old roommate and I, we literally, I'm not even kidding, we ate 30 avocados worth of guacamole in one sitting in this like huge vat, like one of those like things that you mash up, like one of those things. I'm not even like grossed out by them. Like I was just like, that's normal. The HBO made-for-TV film, honey, classic Gia, honey. That movie will make you cry. She was a supermodel in the 70s who contracted HIV/AIDS before anyone knew what it was. It's like it's not a mockumentary, it's like a fake documentary. Gorgeous lesbian scenes. Stealing cars, walking runways, slamming heroin all over New York City, honey. That movie is intense.
Yes, it is.
I cried so much.
I did Getting Curious with Jonathan, and it's just like us cuddling and being cute. It's one of those, it's a genuine laugh, or he was probably saying something like, salad is funny, just to make us laugh because we were being too serious for the photo. I like it when Jonathan comes over because I like to feed him and kind of like play his mom and make him food that he likes. So Jonathan and Tan decided when we were really jet lagged in Sydney that it was appropriate to get up at 4:30 in the morning or 5 and go watch the sunrise on the Sydney Harbour. You know who wasn't invited to that? This guy right here. I insisted on recreating this beautiful experience the next day, and it was pitch black outside. The sun never came out, and it was clear that they had a better time the night before, and I was like really resentful about it. But it's fine, and I can get over it because I'm a grown-ass man. It wasn't cool that they did that without me. That's all I'm going to say.
One of my favorite LGBTQ movies is Brokeback Mountain because I actually grew up on a ranch in the country and I could really relate to 2 guys who lived in a country type set. What are you laughing at?
I think that's not what you were relating to the most. The gyrating, beautiful bodies. But you related to it.
Timothy Chalamet's character is in the car and he's crying because the guy has left. I think we all connect with that when our first boyfriend leaves. No, you don't remember.
That movie is problematic from beginning to end for me. I'm sorry.
You don't remember when you were 16, 17, really being into like a grown man?
And if that grown man was back into it.
No, it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Never have I ever gotten too drunk on a plane.
No, I actually haven't. Too stoned is a different story, but drunk, no. I have had a few too many edibles, broken into a full-out cold sweat, and I just said to myself, Lord, don't take me now, and then I just went to sleep, and then I woke up, and I was in New York, and I was the last one on the plane, and it was fine.
I'm going to do this one because he's drawing attention to his mouth, which he knows is what everybody's obsessed with. Yes, we get it. Anthony, you're hot. You're not for me. You know you're not for me, but you're for everybody else. So be it. I love it. Anthony is the best at thirst trapping, like DL thirst trapping. He acts like that's not what he's doing, and
This image, one that has become all too familiar. Students evacuating with their hands up.
The high school you went to at the moment is extraordinarily famous. It's the same high school that was the location of the Parkland shooting. Are you at all surprised that that school has turned out a generation of activists that have gotten further with gun control in the US than almost any other group? Does it surprise you that that school produced kids that can do that?
Not at all.
Why?
Because a lot of people don't know that my high school was named after an activist. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas was an activist who worked her entire life to save the Everglades. And she was an environmentalist. And so as students, we were constantly, and you have to use that voice to not only help yourself get what you want, but to help others have a better life. And so the minute that happened in my school, I woke up that morning terrified for myself, for my sons who were on their way to school, but also for my community that I loved in my high school. And immediately I saw the kids come forward and I was like, that's my school. And we're in a spot now where we see the shift as a culture, where people are like, enough is enough. The tradition in America, and I know that's not globally, there is a tradition with guns. And you know, some places where hunting is something that people use guns for, there are people who use guns responsibly. So I'd be ignorant to say that I want all guns to be taken away. What I want is for us as citizens to have a voice in with our politicians and say, help us to make sure that help us to make sure that no child at 18 should have access to get a gun. We can't even get licenses to drink until you're 21 in the States. Yet we're saying you have the mental capacity to handle a gun. So we need to just reform the legislation to make sure that we're being more responsible. And I think it starts with stop dividing and making it being, I'm trying to take something away from you. Again, I'm not. I just want us to work together to protect our future generations.